Have you ever spent so much time caring for everyone else that you slowly forgot to care for yourself? Most people never realize it while it is happening. They keep giving their time, their energy, their love, and their strength until one day they look in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back. This is the story of Laila, a woman whose heart was so full of kindness that she gave pieces of it away every single day, never realizing she was leaving nothing for herself. Laila lived in a small, peaceful town where everyone knew her name. Whenever someone needed help, they knocked on her door first. If an elderly neighbor needed groceries, Laila was there. If a sick child needed someone to watch over them while their parents worked, Laila was there. If a friend needed someone to listen, she would sit for hours without looking at the time. She never expected anything in return. Seeing someone smile was enough to make her happy. People often called her an angel. "You have the biggest heart," they would say. "You always know how to make everything better. You never think about yourself." They meant it as a compliment. Laila smiled every time she heard those words. Deep inside, however, she felt something she could never explain. Every morning she woke up tired. Every night she fell asleep with tears in her eyes. She told herself it was only because life was busy. Tomorrow would be easier. Tomorrow she would rest. Tomorrow she would finally do something for herself. But tomorrow never came. Days turned into weeks. Weeks became months. Months quietly became years. Her dreams slowly disappeared beneath the weight of everyone else's expectations. She stopped reading the books she loved. She stopped painting, even though it had once made her feel alive. She stopped taking evening walks because there was always someone who needed her. She stopped laughing the way she used to. Nobody noticed. Everyone saw the woman who was always smiling. Nobody saw the woman who cried alone. One cold winter morning, Laila looked into the bathroom mirror before leaving for work. The smile on her face looked unfamiliar. Her eyes looked tired. The sparkle she once carried had faded. She touched her face gently and whispered, "Who am I becoming?" Before she could think about the answer, her phone rang. Another person needed help. Without hesitation, she picked up her coat and left. That was how every day began. And every day ended the same way. One evening, after spending the entire day helping a neighbor move into a new house, volunteering at a local shelter, finishing extra work for a colleague, and preparing dinner for her family, Laila walked home through heavy rain. Her body felt weak. Her head was spinning. She had not eaten properly all day. Still, she kept walking. Just a few steps away from her front door, everything went dark. She collapsed onto the wet sidewalk. When she opened her eyes again, bright hospital lights filled the room. Machines beeped softly around her. A nurse smiled kindly. "You gave everyone quite a scare." The doctor arrived a few minutes later. He reviewed her reports before sitting beside her bed. "Laila," he said gently, "your body is exhausted. Stress, lack of sleep, emotional pressure, and constant overwork have finally caught up with you." She looked down silently. "I was only trying to help people," she whispered. The doctor nodded. "And that is beautiful. But tell me something." He paused for a moment. "When was the last time someone took care of you?" She searched her memory. She couldn't remember. Then he asked another question. "When was the last time you took care of yourself?" Tears filled her eyes. Again, she had no answer. Those questions stayed with her long after she left the hospital. For the first time in years, Laila realized something painful. She had spent her entire life making sure everyone else's cup was full while her own had become completely empty. A few days later, she sat alone in a quiet park. Children laughed nearby. Birds sang above her. The world seemed peaceful, yet inside her heart there was a storm. She thought about every time she had ignored her own feelings. Every dream she had postponed. Every time she had said yes when she wanted to say no. She finally admitted something she had been hiding from herself. She was tired, not physically, emotionally. She needed healing. That evening she made herself a promise. "I will not stop being kind. But I will finally be kind to myself too." The next morning she woke up before sunrise. Instead of checking messages immediately, she sat by the window with a warm cup of tea. She watched the golden sunlight slowly brighten the sky. For the first time in years, she felt peaceful. It lasted only 10 minutes. But those 10 minutes changed something inside her. Each day she added one small act of self-care. She began eating healthy meals instead of skipping breakfast. She drank enough water. She slept earlier. She walked through the park without rushing. She smiled at strangers. She wrote in a journal every evening. On difficult days, she simply wrote one sentence. I matter too. At first, the words felt strange. Eventually, they became the truth she had forgotten. The hardest lesson came when people continued asking for more of her time. One afternoon a friend called asking her to cancel her only free evening. Normally Laila would have agreed immediately. Instead she took a deep breath. I'm sorry, she said kindly. I need this evening for myself. There was silence. Her friend sounded disappointed. You've changed. Laila smiled softly. Yes, she replied. I'm learning to take care of myself. After hanging up, guilt filled her heart. For a moment she almost called back to apologize. But she remembered the doctor's words. She remembered the hospital. She remembered the woman staring back at her in the mirror. She stayed home. She lit a candle. She read her favorite novel. She laughed at an old comedy movie. That night she slept peacefully. Weeks passed. Something remarkable began happening. The more she respected her own limits, the happier she became. She had more patience, more energy, more genuine smiles. Helping others no longer felt like a burden because she wasn't running on emptiness anymore. People slowly noticed the difference. You seem happier. You look healthier. What changed? Laila simply smiled. I stopped forgetting myself. One afternoon she visited the same park where she had made her promise. She noticed a young woman sitting alone on a bench with tears rolling down her face. Laila quietly sat beside her. After a few minutes the young woman spoke. I feel like I'm disappearing. Laila listened without interrupting. The woman explained how she worked day and night for her family, supported all her friends, and never had time for herself. No matter how much I give, she whispered, it never feels enough. Laila held her hand gently. I know exactly how that feels. The young woman looked surprised. You do? Laila nodded. I once believed that loving myself was selfish. I thought I had to sacrifice everything to deserve love. What happened? I forgot who I was. Tears filled both of their eyes. Then Laila smiled warmly. You cannot pour from an empty cup. The young woman remained silent. You deserve rest. You deserve peace. You deserve kindness. You deserve love. Not because you earned it, but because you are human. Those simple words touched the young woman's heart. Months later, they met again. She looked happier. She had started painting again. She smiled more often. She thanked Laila for changing her life. Laila shook her head. I didn't change your life. You remembered your own worth. Years passed, and Laila became known for something greater than kindness. People came to her not only for help but for hope. Whenever someone felt guilty for resting, she reminded them that rest gives strength. Whenever someone believed saying no made them selfish, she explained that healthy boundaries protect love instead of destroying it. Whenever someone doubted their value, she looked into their eyes and said, the world may measure you by what you do, but your worth has never depended on your productivity. Her words spread from one person to another. Families became healthier. Friendships became stronger. Parents learned to care for themselves so they could better care for their children. Students learned that failure did not make them worthless. Workers realized they deserved balance instead of endless exhaustion. One evening, many years later, Laila stood by her window watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and gold. She remembered the woman she used to be. The woman who believed she had to lose herself to make everyone else happy. She smiled gently. She finally understood the lesson life had tried so hard to teach her. Love is not measured by how much of yourself you sacrifice. Real love begins when you value yourself enough to protect your own heart. She closed her eyes and whispered the words she wished someone had told her years ago. You deserve the same kindness you give to everyone else. The wind carried her words into the quiet evening. Perhaps someone, somewhere, needed to hear them. Perhaps someone was sitting alone, believing they were not enough. Perhaps someone was giving everything away while forgetting their own heart. If that person could hear Laila's story, she hoped they would remember one simple truth. You matter. Your dreams matter. Your happiness matters. Your health matters. Your heart matters. Never lose yourself while trying to save everyone else. Because the greatest gift you can give the world is not a broken version of yourself. It is a healthy, peaceful, loved, and whole heart that remembers its own value before trying to heal everyone else's.